people.
Good evening, everyone.
Hey, listen. When Wayne be talking, he be talking, don't he?
He be
Did
spitting.
you hear this?
I did. I listened to it the other day.
Okay.
But before we start, ladies and gentlemen, welcome
Whoa.
to episode 91 of Speak On It. I'm your host,
Hold
Eddie
on, hold on,
Olson.
my brother. Let him
Hold
get
on,
it.
my
Let him
bad.
get a few off.
Let y'all go ahead.
Hey, this goat talk. Hey, when goats talk, we gotta listen. We gotta
Dog.
listen.
I don't know if we need a Wayne album. I just need Wayne to drop a single like every 3 months. And I think we'll be okay.
Shoot, it would be nice if he did such a thing. But I mean, he put out enough features though, it might offset it, right?
That's true.
I mean, he's still Wayne. He is still Lil Wayne. My brother, how are you doing though?
I am doing all right. I can't complain too much. How are you?
I'm doing good. Speak on it. Episode 91, people. We are back. We took some time off last week.
Yep.
Thank heavens that we did because, boy, yo,
Yeah.
yeah. But look, before we get into a couple of the housekeeping announcements, let me get out some housekeeping announcements of my own that I'm just going to start saying. Number one, check your pay stubs, check your W-4s. Your employer do not give a damn. Do not give a damn what comes out of your check. Start there. Check your pay stubs, check your W-4. You know why? Because when you get your W-2, Uncle Sam is going to get his.
Always.
Always. And there is no mafia bigger than the U.S. government. They move militantly.
Uncle Sam is undefeated.
They have yet to lose. Well, they lost to the Vietnamese, but that's a way bigger different story. The second, the second thing that we must remember, and I'm gonna say this until this spot gets filled. There is one open spot in our fantasy 10-team Dynasty PPR league. If you are interested in inheriting or a league leader, a generational talent, please DM myself, DM Danny. We can talk about it. But I will say you will inherit a really solid squad, especially after the draft lottery last night. Especially after the draft lottery last night, you're gonna whoever inherits this team. It's quiet is kept. I think they're gonna be set up for success for a few years now.
Like some of the players they're going to have to drop to make room for the incoming players. I am probably going to pick up at least one or two. Like this roster is stacked. Too bad it doesn't have.
You're gonna draft because you can draft free agents and rookies, right?
Yeah, I know you can draft free agents, but I mean it's going to be like this. Yeah, whoever gets that team, I'm open for business. And Greg, if you're out there, if you're listening, it's going to take a whole lot to get the fourth pick. A lot.
That guy has 3 first-round picks or two. No, you have.
He has 2. I have 3.
Greg, if you ever hear this, don't send me no trades, bro, because I know you're gonna piss me off. You got a knack for doing that.
Yo, Greg just be living. He talking so much shit to that man.
Dog, fam. He asked me what the asking price for JT was. I told him, I literally said 101 is probably Bijan, so you're not moving him. I think his second one is he has a second first.
He has 7. He has 7 because I have 4, 7. And he's talking to me about flipping.
Yeah, he has 7, and that's what it was. 7. So I said, "Yo, I'll take 107, and I'll take 107 and Damian Pierce. You can have JT." Then he tried to sell me on Tyler Algier. I stopped. I literally stopped the conversation there. Because what the fuck,
Greg? If you're listening. If you want 104, it's going to cost you at least 107. Garrett Wilson, and a second-round pick next year. And that's the start of this conversation. I'm willing to throw in a few other players, but any deal, Garrett Wilson is going to be in that deal.
What about my first-round pick? Give me back my first-round pick.
We can talk. See, the thing is, I don't want, and we'll get to some housekeeping items, and we'll get to some the rundown in a second. I don't want to make a move until I know the draft, like until I know where people are drafted, and I want that orphan team to find a home before I do anything.
That orphan team gonna get some offers from me.
That orphan, like, I don't care how this sounds. I'm coming for that orphan team. Pause. Can I buy that orphan team? Like I joked about it last night, but can I buy it? Can I Dan Snyder this thing?
Give me back your championship money, and I'll switch out the teams.
Talk. I'm not paying $700 for a team. That's ridiculous.
All right,
that's ridiculous.
Now I will say though, as I look at my team, I'm like, with this, I have to remember that this team won games last year. Like I won the division. So like, I have to think that my team is still very, very competitive. I just gotta. I think there's just some fine-tuned things, and that's why I'm trying to get back into the first round, because I think the player that I want to take, I don't know if everyone's going to be as high as him that I think will be, but I don't know if he'll be there by my first pick in the second round. So
let's, again, I don't want, like, Gator J has made me Gator J off me Joey Bosa for a second round pick. My brother in Christ. Or was it a third round pick? I think it was Joey Bosa for a third round pick. Like, I'm not trading for a defensive player.
He you know what? It's quiet as kept. Those defensive players give you those. I'm not saying it's Joey Bosa, but some of those defensive players just give you like mad random points that end up helping you out like you don't realize.
So I'll give free game, because this is what happened to me last year. Start two safeties. Like, start a safety that roams the field and then start a safety that plays close to the box. That's what I did. Like, I started two safeties.
Well, I mean, I started two middle linebackers. I honestly, I think I had the two best IDP players like in the league: Roquan Smith and Aluake from Jacksonville, the top two of the top tacklers from last year. Easy. Yo, that was like a free 10 to 15 points a week, easily. So that's like between the two, that's almost 30 points.
Yeah.
Heaven forbid if they get like a fumble recovery, a sack, anything, price was going up. So.
Let's do a few housekeeping. You and I can talk at the end of the show. I have an idea, but it's gonna cost you to jump back in the first round.
I'll give you a player in your second round pick back, by the way.
Okay, we can talk. As always, this show is brought to you by goingfor2.com.
No, we'll talk later.
Okay. As always, this show is brought to you by goingfor2.com. Head over to goingfor2.com for all your daily fantasy needs. Basketball seasons, we're here for the playoff push. Baseball's getting started. Again, head over to goingfor2.com for all your fantasy needs. Tonight we're going to be talking a lot of basketball. Football is over. We're going to talk a lot of NBA. We're going to talk about the race in the Western Conference. We're going to talk about the NBA MVP. We're going to talk about some football stuff. We're going to talk about the combine, what the Bears should be doing with the number one pick. Rodgers, Carr, or Russell Wilson asking Pete Carroll to get fired. You want to talk about some cinema stuff? This is a lot of stuff. And then we have a question. The people have finally took us up on our offer and sent us questions. So we'll be answering a question tonight. Before we do all that, let's jump into this NBA playoff race. The All-Star game was a couple weeks ago. I'm going to be honest, the whole weekend was a whole lot of mid. I did not enjoy watching a lot of that stuff. It was just really boring to me, especially after Giannis and LeBron got hurt. Anyway, home stretch NBA games, playoffs right around the corner. East looks like it's a 3-team race between the Bucks, the Celtics, and the Sixers. The first question, and we'll break this down piece by piece. Who do you think will get the 1 seed out of those 3 teams? And which team is the odd team out in the Eastern Conference Finals?
Well, when I think about the Eastern Conference, I know personally I still like the Celtics to keep the number one seed. I think when you think about the Celtics, they are probably one of the deepest teams in the NBA. Obviously, they're led by Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, who are as formidable as a duo as you can really imagine. And then you start thinking about like the pieces they have around them. You have Malcolm Brogdon, you got Derek White, you got Grant Williams has been playing bad. You got Robert Williams who's back is not playing bad. I think this Celtics team is definitely built to definitely make another deep playoffs run. I think the one question mark I have about the Celtics is, can they keep this continuity going? I think, last night you saw them in New York without, which I believe without Jaylen Brown, struggled a little bit, ended up losing to the Knicks in Madison Square Garden. So can they keep this continuity going? And also in a 7-game series, can Joe Mazzulla, who I believe should be in the absolute running for Coach of the Year, can he be able to make adjustments and set the right lineups to be able to match up with any team they might have to face in any of these playoff series? I think that's a big question mark that I want to have. That I kind of have on the Celtics. Obviously, we know Ime Udoka was. He's still one of the best coaches in the league. I think when he comes back, he'll get right back to it. I honestly, I think that's another story. But I think just seeing, can Joe Mazzulla out coach some of the other coaches in the Eastern Conference, particularly the team I believe they're going to end up meeting in the Eastern Conference finals being the Milwaukee Bucks. I think when you look at the Bucks, similarly to the Celtics, they're deep at a lot of positions, especially with the addition of Jay Crowder. They have a lot of size, a lot of length. They can shoot the basketball. They can protect the paint. And then they have guys who can do a lot of everything at different positions, whether it's Brook Lopez, who can obviously protect the rim and also shoot the three while being able to be a paint presence. They have Jay Crowder now who can do some things. Obviously, when you have Drew Holiday, who's one of the better two-way players in the league, you have Chris Middleton, who always seems to be there in those clutch moments, making clutch shots. The Bucks are a really, really good team. Yeah. And similarly to the Celtics, they are deep at a lot of positions. I think, to answer your second question, my team being left out of this mix in terms of the Eastern Conference Finals is the Philadelphia 76ers. And I know a lot of people are saying this is the year that they finally get over the hump, get to not only the Eastern Conference Finals, but go all the way to the finals. I think my one question mark is, after Joel Embiid's dominance and after James Harden's ability to make plays and get everyone involved, where does the rest of the scoring on a consistent 7-game series basis come from, right? If you succeed that you really won't be able to stop Joel Embiid and all you can do is contain him, and you attempt to really neutralize James Harden, who else on the Sixers team do you look at and you say this person can definitely beat us in a 7-game series? And I just don't know who that person is. I mean, some days it's Tyrese Maxey, right? Some days it's Tobias Harris. Some days it's DeAndre Melton. I'm still trying to figure that out. I think, if we get to the playoffs and we see kind of that third player start to rise for the Celtics, not the Sixers, then I think maybe they give who I believe will be the second seed in the Milwaukee Bucks to run for their money, right? I think the Bucks and the Sixers, that series in that second final, that semifinal matchup is going to be really, 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 really competitive, really, really good. I think, obviously, I think I'd give it to the Bucks in probably about 6 games, but that's more so because I see the Bucks being able to really kind of find ways to neutralize James Harden, find ways to limit not Giannis, Joel Embiid, and just daring someone else to beat him.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%, and it makes me sad because I love Joel Embiid and I love the Sixers, but yeah, I don't. Celtics and the Bucks are the top 2 teams in the East, and whoever gets the 1 seed will go to the NBA Finals because that 2 seed is going to have to play the Sixers, and that's going to be a dog fight no matter whether it's the Celtics, whether it's the Bucks, whoever gets that 2 seed is going to have to see the Sixers in the second round, and boy, oh boy, you're going to be in some trouble. And I think it's going to be hard for any team to beat the other team twice. Like, it's going to be hard for the Celtics to beat the Sixers and then go beat the Bucks. It's going to be hard for the Bucks to beat the Sixers and then go to the Celtics. It's going to be hard for the Sixers to beat the Bucks and then beat the Celtics. So, right, whoever gets the 1 seed in the East is going to have to play Cleveland in the second round, probably. Cleveland is a good team, but again, if we're talking about the Bucks or the Celtics, I think they can handle them in 6. So I'm with you 100%. I think whoever gets the 1 seed is going to the finals, but
so I like where you're going with this 1 seed, right? Obviously, I think we're in conjunction here that the 1 seed is pivotal. So I guess my question is, when you look outside the top three of the Celtics and the Bucks and the Sixers, what other team in the East can really realistically win a playoff series against potentially one? Like, who could give one of these other three teams like a real run for their money? You mentioned Cleveland. There's
Yep.
Miami in the mix. I don't know. I don't know if Toronto's in there, but you got the Hawks in there. You got the Knicks in there. You got I think I said the Heat already. I mean,
Yep.
even now, like I can't even really start thinking about other teams that really have a,
I
it's
think
hard.
I think it's the Cavs and the Cavs only, where you got Evan Mobley, you got Donovan Mitchell. Like Donovan, like I remember in the bubble, he and Jamal Murray just like exchanging 50-pointers. Like that's the only team I can see giving a top 3 seed a run for their money. And Cleveland is a piece away themselves from being one of those topper. Like for the East to be, it's just 4 teams. So like it's only Cleveland. And I think Cleveland's going to get the 1 seed in the second round. I don't think Cleveland is there yet to take on the Bucks or the Celtics.
So I'm gonna name some teams and just tell me where you think. So we have the Knicks. No, they can't beat anybody.
I think the Knicks can win in the first round, depending on who they get. Right? Who's 5th right now?
The Knicks. The Knicks are 5th. The Cavs are 4th. I'm gonna say this: the Brooklyn Nets. Y'all are spiraling out of control. I don't see the Brooklyn Nets. I think the Brooklyn Nets are going to be a play-in tournament team.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think I look at teams like the Heat, who are currently 7th, 2 games behind the Nets. The Hawks, who are a game and a half or 3.5 games behind the Nets at the 6th seed. The Raptors, who are 5 games behind, and then the Wizards, who are 6 games behind.
Okay. So
and it's really going to start coming down to the Nets. I think a lot of the Eastern Conference teams are looking at the Nets like this team is food, and they're going to fall.
Yes. And when we're talking, so the playoffs start today. Bucks, Hawks, that's Bucks in 4. Celtics, Heat, Celtics in 5. Sixers and Nets, Sixers in 4. Cavs, Knicks, I think Knicks in 5. Right? Like there's definitely.
Funny as kept, the Celtics having the Heat first round wouldn't be the cakewalk everyone thinks. It would be 5 very close games.
But it'd be 5 very close games. But like I think Jimmy Butler can no longer. I don't know. There was a really short window when you had a chance to win a championship if Jimmy Butler's your main guy, and that window closed when the bubble popped and LeBron won that ring in Disney. That was it.
That and when Jimmy left Philly, because remember when Jimmy was on the Sixers, I mean that was a really good team that went to the Eastern Conference Finals, by the way, lost to Kawhi in Game 7.
Yeah, like that. So let's go to the West. So the West is a lot more competitive. The third, and only 3 games separate 3 and 13. So out of these teams, what 4 teams do you think will make the play-in tournament? And do you think the play-in tournament team can win in the first round this year? Because since the tournament's been implemented, no one who's been in the play-in has won in the first round.
Okay. So for context speaking, the 4 teams currently play-in tournament would be the Golden State Warriors, the Utah Jazz, the Minnesota Timberwolves, and New Orleans Pelicans.
Yep.
And then right outside, literally like a game behind, well, half a game behind, you have the Blazers and you have the Lakers, right?
Yep.
I think that's where it kind of ends. I'll throw the Thunder in there, maybe the Thunder. So Blazers, Lakers, Thunder on the outside looking in, but right now it would be the Warriors, the Jazz, the Timberwolves, and the Pelicans. Of these 4, I mean, I think you got to lean on the defending champs, right? To see they could possibly win a first round matchup if they were to make it into the playoffs. I would say if they get the Grizzlies in the first round, right? If they get the Grizzlies in the first round, honestly, I think a lot of people really might pick the Warriors.
Yes,
I think a lot of people would pick the Warriors in maybe like 6 or 7 games, just knowing they have championship pedigree experience, and they with Curry healthy, they give the Grizzlies a lot of fits on their ability to stretch the floor. So I would say I would start there by saying the defending champions. But I also think if you're the defending champions, you're half a game behind the Mavericks for getting the 6th seed. So there's a chance that the Mavericks might end up falling into the play-in tournament because they have a lack of playing defense. I think when you start looking at the Jazz, the Timberwolves, and the Pelicans, they don't scare a soul. Like nobody is really afraid of them. Zion don't want to play clearly. Minnesota, they're just way too up and down, even though they have a real big star in in Anthony Edwards, but they have a lot of injuries right now. I still don't understand what the hell's going on with Karl Anthony Towns, but I digress. And then you have the Utah Jazz, right? I think the Utah Jazz, they're like a team you're thinking not there yet. They have Lauri Markkanen, but just not. They're not there yet. They're competitive in every game. I just don't think they're there yet, right? I'm thinking when you start thinking about some of these teams on the outside looking in, i.e., the Portland Trailblazers and potentially the Los Angeles Lakers, I think those are two teams that a lot of teams look at like, hey, we might want to keep them out of the playoffs because if one of these two teams get in, I'm personally thinking the Lakers, maybe more so than the Blazers. But obviously, you got to respect Dame Lillard and his ability to light up anyone. I think the Blazers and the Lakers scare a lot more people than the Timberwolves, than the Pelicans and the Jazz. So very curious to see how that'll play out. So I would say I see the four teams that end up landing in the play-in tournament are going to be the Golden State Warriors, Portland Trailblazers, Los Angeles Lakers, and the New Orleans Pelicans. I'll give the Pelicans their ability to maybe finish up strong if Zion ever decides he wants to come back and play. I don't know, man. This whole hamstring thing is it's funny to me. I'm not going to say, look, how is he? Never mind.
We'll talk about that later,
because how does he keep getting hurt?
We will talk about that later. That's kind of reflective of what the question is that we got today.
Yeah, so that's my choice, and I could definitely see. I'll put it like this: I think the Lakers, if they get the 8th seed, well, yeah, right, it'd be 8.
Yeah,
would it be 7 or 8? It would be 8.
I have something. I think we're about to say the same thing.
I think if the Lakers get the 8th seed, Denver fans, y'all are going to be really, really mad when y'all end up winning all them damn games to lose to LeBron James and Anthony Davis.
That's what I was about to say. If the Lakers get the 8th seed,
and
they're going to be honest with
you, it would be. How do I say this? It would definitely change the perspective on these 3 MVPs. Because I believe Jokic is going to win the MVP this year.
Yep.
Unfortunately. Sorry, Joel. Sorry, Giannis. Sorry, Tatum. But I think Jokic is going to win the MVP this year. So if you are the Nuggets and you end up matching up with the Lakers at the 8th seed and you end up losing in like 6 games, like what the fuck did you win these games for?
I agree everything you said about the teams in the play-in. But yes, if the Los Angeles Lakers play the Nuggets in the first round, Anthony Davis is going to eat that man's lunch. Like he has his entire career, the same way Joel Embiid eats his lunch, the same way elite big man. I think Evan Mobley ate his lunch the other night in Cleveland. I am with you, and we're going to keep that going. I agree with everything you said about the play-in. I think the Mavericks are going to slip into the play-in, but I think they'll end up getting the 7th seed. Like that's too much firepower. I won't talk about the Mavs tonight. Like we're not talking about the Mavs tonight.
They gotta play some more defense, dog. They gotta
put your hand up. Just contest a shot. We're not asked you to lock nobody up, dog. We just asked you, don't let Anthony Davis score 30 points. Why is Luka guarding Anthony Davis? Like, did you watch that game Sunday? Doris Burke,
watched the entire game and almost turned it off because I was like, how does this keep happening every time we play the Mavs? They just start shooting the fucking lights out. And then Jared Vanderbilt happened, and then literally it was like a flick of a switch. Whole game turned around.
When Anthony Davis hit that fadeaway to ice it, Doris Burke was like, "Oh, Luka's on him. That's an easy decision." Like, like Doris was like, "Yo, Luka is on him. Oh, that's easy."
Oh man, Doris, that's where y'all boys thinking out there.
Yeah, there were a couple inbound plays, and Doris was like, "Wait, is that Luka on AD? LeBron, just throw it to him. What are you doing?" But yeah, I'm with you. I want to talk about this MVP because you talked about Jokic is probably going his 3rd. So the race is Jokic seems like the clear-cut winner, but the race it's tighter than I think we realize. If he does win it, Joker would win 3 in a row, which is a very, very high praise. Like the only person who has won 3 in a row. The last person did it was Larry, and then the first person before that was Wilt, right? I think it's only Wilt and Larry Bird. So let's see. He's averaging a triple-double. And he's on the verge of averaging. Like his stats are good, right?
And we seen
Does
the
he
last
get
person
his
who averaged
third?
a double won the MVP, and they had a worse record and a worse seeding than
Right.
Jokic did. That's what leads me to believe he's going to win it this year.
So, do you want to talk a little bit more on that? I have a lot to say about this, but I want to let
Yeah,
you go.
I think when you look at his body of work and how he impacts his team on a night to night basis, it makes sense why he is the MVP. I'm not going to be like some of you dorks out here and bring up the V-Orp and the D-Art and the pass rash combination plus minus. Save that for the bitches that do not care about basketball that you're trying to impress with your faux basketball knowledge. Save that for them. For people who watch the game of basketball and clearly see what's going on, you clearly see this guy on a night-to-night regular season basis. He is the best player. Like he's the best player on most nights. He's the best player on the court. He
Yep.
like the team doesn't move without him. You clearly see when he's off the court versus on the court the big difference in how this team plays. So I get why he wins the MVP, and he has my vote for winning the MVP. I think where I want to see Jokic's evolution is in the playoffs. You hear it time and time again from basketball heads who watch the game of basketball. All teams do in the postseason is they put this man in a pick and roll situation,
Yep.
and they fucking cook him like a split pig, bro. Like it's same thing. That's why Golden State was feasting on him. It's
Dog, Golden State ran him off the floor last year. Like he was on the bench in crunch time, and I feel like we just gloss over that. The Warriors ran him off the floor.
yeah, and you got to imagine if Steph comes back healthy. I mean, when Steph comes back healthy, which he's very close to, with Steph and Clay and Draymond's ability to find everyone, get everyone involved. You got Jordan Poole now. I mean, you got Jordan Poole too. They're going to get Gary Payton Jr. Gary Payton the second back. I mean, this is a team when they're healthy, they are going to space the floor out, and that is like the worst thing possible to happen for the Nuggets, right? And versus a team maybe like the Lakers who have a very big paint presence. Like now you're going to put Anthony Davis on him. Now you saw what happened when Joel Embiid and the Nuggets played. Like it was just cooking all day. They straight cooking all day because he for his offensive prowess, what he gives you on the offensive end versus what he gives you on the defensive end is just two very vastly different things, right? And what you don't want to do, and what keeps continuously, whether it's the Clippers, whether it's the Golden State Warriors, they find ways to expose him and make you be in a position where you either have to keep this guy on the court and accept that he's a defensive liability, or you got to get him off the court so that you have to be able to you're able to cover to space the floor and cover. I think it's a difficult ask for a guy. I think it's easier in the regular season when guys are in and out of the lineups. Some guys may have been clubbing the other night, but 7-game series, they got to focus on you. Teams are just going to keep doing the same thing until you show them that you can stop it. And I think that's where I want to see the evolution of the Joker in the playoffs. Can you make teams have to account for you offensively and defensively?
Here's the thing about me with the MVP. He deserves it this year, but this is the first one he's deserved. He didn't deserve it last year. It should have went to Joel. And if anyone in this era deserved 3 back-to-back MVPs, it should have been Giannis 2 years ago because that would have made 3 in a row. But he hadn't won a championship yet. He will go on to win a title that year, I believe. So, and I'm with you. Advanced stats have their place in basketball, right? They can help they can reveal another layer of the story. But whenever you talk to a Jokic fan, the first thing out their mouth is some advanced statistic. And it's like, I don't care about his VORP, dog. I don't care about that shit.
Yeah.
All I know is
my response is always the same. Yo, dog, I hear you, but watch the game. Watch the game. Yeah, VORP numbers through the roof, yet they won 135 to 127.
And when he plays someone on his level, they eat him alive. Anthony Davis eats him alive. Joel Embiid eats him alive. And Evan, I guess we can put Evan Mobley in there. Like, he's good. Like, I'm not trying to disregard him, and I think last year they fell in love with advanced stats, right? He was what were they last year? The 6th seed, and he wins MVP. Like, dog, winning has to matter. And he's winning this year. That's what this year he's earned it. Like, I have no complaints. It's just he didn't deserve the first 2. So now you're about to give someone their 3rd MVP, and the farthest they've been is the Western Conference Finals. And that was back in the bubble. And what happened? Anthony Davis ate that man alive, and then the
6
Lakers went
games,
on
I
to win the
believe.
championship.
Was it
Yeah,
5 or
and
6
then
games?
like that was the playoff. Like Jamal Murray was going bananas. Like Jamal, I don't know, man. Like he's earned it this year, Jokic, but he hadn't earned the first two, and that's what makes this so bad. You're going to give like Larry Bird and Wilt Chamberlain won championships en route at some point during a 3-year MVP runs. Like they had won a chip during that run. He hasn't sniffed the Western Conference Finals during this run. And advanced analytics, as great as they are, like people who are watching basketball with calculators are sitting here telling me he deserves MVP because his VORP is through the roof. Dog, like you VORP dorks got to stop this. Like,
And so I mean, with that, right? So let's just say that the Nuggets get the 1 seed, the Grizzlies get the 2 seed, Kings get the 3 seed, Suns get the 4 seed. Let's say the Clippers get the 5 seed. Let's say the Warriors get the 6 seed, Mavs get the 7 seed, Lakers get the 8 seed, right? So let me get this straight. So now you have to, your first round matchup is against Anthony Davis.
Yep.
Let's just say you win. Let's say you beat him in 6. You beat him in 6. Now your second round matchup is against DeAndre Ayton, Kevin Durant, and Chris Paul, fam, and Devin Booker.
You food.
What
like
the
you
fuck
food.
are we gonna do here? What are we doing here?
Your food.
Like, and let's just say, by the grace of heavens, that let's just say the Grizzlies beat the Kings in the second round. So now you got to deal with Steven Adams and Jaren Jackson Jr. What are we talking about here? Did anyone else see the layup line that the Grizzlies had a couple nights ago when they played the Nuggets? That's all it was. Straight layup line. Layup line.
Like, I think Jokic is, and again, I might be misspeaking, like his game is great for the regular season when teams don't have time to game plan. But like when it comes time, like I got 7 games to expose you, like he comes up small more times than not. Like all like, and again, like what is his MVP moment? Like every like, and I know the MVP isn't a postseason award, right? It's regular season, and that's why he keeps winning it. But like so, at some point, like I need to see something. Like what is his performance and over the past couple of years where you're like, oh man, like there's
I'll take it a step further because I know we were talking about the All-Star game a couple years ago. NBA, I'm gonna look you in the eyes when I say this. If you're gonna make my man, because what you're saying here is when you give someone 3 MVPs in a row, they're not only the face of the league, they are undisputedly the best player in the league, bar none. So don't give no, respectfully speaking, don't tell me my brother is the best player in the league, but when it comes down to actual other players, having to pick other players for an All-Star game, my man is second to last because he forced himself on the team LeBron. Like what the? Because who was the first person LeBron chose with his pick?
Joel. The players know. Like I think that like the players know. The players know.
I think the players know that he's a great player. I think so. I think the players know that he's a great player. So I want to know why the players view or why the players view Joel Embiid and Jokic so differently. And when you look at the stats, when you look at the games, Joel Embiid affects both ends of the court consistently.
He's dominant.
Did anyone else watch the Sixers and Celtics last Saturday? Joel Embiid was a presence on both ends of the floor, and I think we're both saying the same thing here. We got to feel that second presence from Jokic on the defensive end of the floor, and we got to start seeing this regular season game begin to really transition to the postseason. Like I don't want to see Jokic. I guess what I'm saying is I think Jokic is too good to continue to get swept or gentlemen swept or losing in 6 games. Now I know a lot of Nuggets fans are out here saying this will be the first time that the Nuggets are going to the postseason fully healthy with Jamal and Jokic. Good. Like that's what I want. I want you guys to be fully healthy so that this year you guys have the best chance to go into the postseason and make a deep run. And when I say a deep run, like we're talking to the finals. So that way everyone can at least say this guy, he's taking his team to a finals. Even if he loses, you can't say that his game's not translating to success.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like if the Nuggets run into the Bucks in the finals, old buddy, pack it up.
Oh no, that's gonna be nasty. That's a whole nother story because I think listen, I think if the Bucks were to win the West, they would be praying that they get the Celtics in the finals. Like they have to pray that they get the Celtics because that'd be their best chance.
Yeah,
because if you get the Bucks or the Sixers, it is going to be a long day for my man. Because especially if they get the Bucks, yo, because like if Drew Holiday could put Devin Booker in the camel clutch, what you think he's gonna do to Jamal Murray?
And then you got Boss Man 99 guarding Michael Porter.
Then you're gonna ask Jokíc to figure out a way to deal with Giannis and Brook Lopez.
Dog.
Good luck. And shout out MPJ too. I'm not gonna forget about MPJ because he's a really talented
player. Don't even worry about Boss Man 99 got that.
Aaron Gordon. So
don't worry. Boss Man got that locked up.
Yeah, we're gonna see. First off, also shout out Gator J. I see you in the chat. Shout out everyone else in the chat. If you're here, you're live with us. Holla at us, yo. This is some really, really good basketball talk. So I guess since we both kind of see that Jokíc will likely win the MVP, who do you think will be the runner-up? I think it will be. I actually think it would be Jason Tatum this year.
Yes,
and then Joel
I think it's Tatum. Yep, I'm with you. Jason Tatum's playing lights out. It's gonna be Tatum.
Yeah, which, man, I guess to your point earlier about Joel not having one, it's like Joel, he's got to put one on his resume at some point because.
He should have had it last year.
Yeah, it's because now I'm going to look because now I feel like as we get in the latter parts of Joel Embiid's career, I don't want the fact that he didn't win MVP to be held against him. It's like, hey, yo, dog, like he easily could have won 2.
Yeah, it's like Nash's second MVP, right? That's Kobe's MVP. Now, luckily, I think Kobe went on to an MVP at another time, and hopefully Joel does. But yeah, like it's the same thing. Like Nash won that second MVP. It's like, wait a second, what are we doing here? This is what we're doing with Jokíc. Oh, what are we doing here? And it's sad because he's earned it this year. Like I have no qualms this year. The past 2 years, he has not earned it, and now he's going to be put in the same breath as Larry Bird and Wilt Chamberlain. Bananas.
Yo, you talking about Nash's second MVP reminds me of the story I heard about Kyrie seeing Steve Nash's second MVP trophy and saying, "Oh, so this is the MVP that you stole from Kobe Bryant."
No,
when I read that on Twitter, I said, "This is a lie. I don't believe this." But if it so happens, let's just say that it's true. On a scale from 1 to I'm about to whoop your ass, how disrespectful was that?
Dog, I would take that trophy and knock that man upside his head. Blunt force trauma.
Like, imagine Kyrie Irving basically telling you, yo, dog, this is the MVP you stole from Kobe. Like,
that's Bean's MVP. God rest his soul. Dog.
His soul.
Dog. There'd be some furniture moving. But yeah.
Oh, no, they got furniture moving. Now I'm just straight up asking. I'm telling him to put your gloves on. We're gonna have to box a little bit. You
know what I would do? I would lock the door and pull out the COVID vaccine. You'd be like, "What's good, bro?" I'd pull out the vaccine. What's good, bro? What were you saying?
Nash could rebuttal and just be like, "Oh, just like that ring you got from just like
hello,
you got 2016, you stole that one from the Warriors." You'd be like,
but Kyrie hit the shot though.
He could also say, "Yo, they were up 3-1. They had plenty of chances to win that one."
Yeah, I wouldn't. Nah, he couldn't bring that on me. They were up 3-1. Yeah. Let's shift gears to talk about some combine and some Bears talk. So we're deep in the combine. It got started today. There've been a lot of press conferences today. And the Bears on the clock. Bears been on the clock since the Chiefs won 2 weeks ago. But a lot of us believe that they're going to trade the number 1 overall pick. D, you're the GM of the Chicago Bears. You're sitting in your chair right now. You have the number 1 overall pick. People are hitting you up. Yo, this is what I'll give you. This is what I'll give you. What would you do with this pick? Would you trade it or would you use it? Like, what would your priorities be this year with the number 1 overall pick?
I look at the Chicago Bears and I say, okay, I haven't been paying too much attention to Chicago Bears fans because I see a lot of you guys have the discourse of to keep or to trade Justin Fields. I think to anyone out here who says trade Justin Fields, please sit in a cardboard box and shut the fuck up. You don't know football. You are not a GM. You know what the fuck you're talking about. I'm just start by saying that. I think if I'm the Chicago Bears, I have to look at my roster, right? I say you have your franchise quarterback.
Yes.
You've seen based off of Jalen Hurts, based off of Josh Allen, based off of even Patrick Mahomes at some point. You've seen a lot of these young quarterbacks have tremendous success when you bring in a true number one wide receiver that they have to respect and try to double, which opens up a lot of the rest of your offense. So I think if you're the Chicago Bears, you put the word out to the teams, hey, to anyone who has an older, maybe aging wide receiver that's still in his prime, or maybe on the expiring end of their contract, you're looking to move up in the draft. Very similar to what the Eagles did last year with A.J. Brown. 101 is right here and available. You come get it, and it's going to cost you.
Yep.
That's what I would do if I was the Bears. I would say, I think they're outside of that. I mean, because I look at this draft and I say, okay, I think if they want to start like drafting players, I think it probably will start in the defensive end. And I think outside of Will Anderson, unless you're very, very sure that you want to take Will Anderson at number one overall, you can definitely trade back, especially if they're in the top 10 already. You can definitely trade back, maybe to 4, maybe to 5, maybe to 6, depending on who it is, and see if maybe Will Anderson to be there. If not, there are plenty. I think there's plenty of good defensive players that can really help boost your team. But I think if you're the Bears, I mean, I'm not gonna say you don't need the number one overall pick. I think you can use that for a lot of advantage to be able to flip some things in the long run. I hate the discourse around trading Justin Fields because a lot of people, that's how I know a lot of y'all don't know football and you don't know what you're fucking watching out there. Justin Fields is not the problem. If you've watched him in college and if you watched the Bears play, he has the ability to make plays. He needs playmakers. He needs playmakers. If Chase Claypool and Darnell Mooney are your wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2, I promise you, you are not beating anybody over the top. You need a legitimate wide receiver 1. You need it.
I agree. I'm with you. We're not trading Justin Fields. Like you said, the goal is to get Justin Fields as many weapons as possible, but it's also draft the best player available, whether that's on the defensive side of the ball or if that's the offensive side of the ball. I would trade 1 overall and I would get a haul. I'd get a couple of, like, if someone is that desperate to get Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, all right, well, you're going to have to pay for Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. And then I would take that draft capital and flip it. Like you said, I can't think of a receiver right now who was in that A.J. Brown fit last year or, the Stephon Diggs for Josh Allen. Like, all I can think of is, DeAndre Hopkins, and he's real long in the tooth. I mean, he could help for a year or two, but I don't know if you're going to get that same rapport. But yeah, you got to go find Justin number 1. You got to find Justin, get him some protection offensive line, but also trade 1 and start rebuilding this team. You have all this cap space so that you can fill holes, especially along the offensive line, like in free agency. Like you can do some things. Like think of them like as Jacksonville last year. Like you can do some things.
I also think if you're the Chicago Bears, why not go the route of maybe trading back like later into the top 10 and getting a first round wide receiver along with trading for a brand new wide receiver? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you can go out there, maybe get a D Hop whose price may not be the biggest, and that way you're still able to maybe draft a Quentin Miller or a Jackson Smith Ninjaba, like one of the, or a Marvin. No, he's not available yet. So one of these really, really good wide receivers, I think. And also, I definitely think when you look at this draft class compared to the 2024 draft class, I think 2024 is going to have a lot of good playmakers. So I think you want to load up on some draft picks in 2024 too. I think you'll be able to find a lot of good day 2, 3 picks in this draft. But in terms of like pure day 1 picks, I think if you're the Chicago Bears, I would trade back into the top 10, get a haul, not only go out here and try to get it like a DeAndre Hopkins veteran wide receiver, but draft a young stud wide receiver and have him be able to learn under this GOAT, and get some of these other wide receivers the fuck out of here on your team, yo. Listen, I watch the Bears play, obviously, because the Packers play them twice a year. They won't beat nobody with that offense. They're not beating nobody. You got David Montgomery. You have Khalil Herbert. So you have a good two-headed punch at the backfield. You have to get you got Cole Kmet, a tight end, I think that will continue to get better in the future. You have to get wide receivers that can stretch the field and make you have to have to double one or the other and rotate your coverage. So that way you have a better chance of being able to rush the passer a little bit better. Or,
Yeah. Or, I'm just trying to look up some names. Yeah, like I call San Francisco and say, what do I have to do to get Brandon Ayuk? I'd call Cincinnati and say, hey, what I got to give you to get T. Higgins, right? Like that'd be call number one. What you want for T. Higgins?
Well, Cincinnati's GM says if you're looking Cincinnati's GM says if you're looking for a wide receiver one, look at a different team because T.
Oh
Higgins
yeah, Cincinnati. Like you have T. Higgins for I think T. Higgins was the first round pick, right? So yeah, you got T for another 2 years. I wouldn't do anything with T. Higgins until next offseason at the very earliest. But still, it's still worth hey, I trade back, hey man, I got the 5th overall pick. I don't think T. Higgins is worth that much, but hey, I can give you a first next year. Or you can flip that and see if you can pry T. Higgins away from.
So you don't think there's a world where Cincinnati can pay both T. Higgins and Jamar Chase?
No, you can't. And Joe Burrow about to get paid this year.
But they likely letting go of Joe Mixon.
Okay, Joe Burrow, and we'll talk about this as we get closer to free agency. The first team that signs their quarterback to a long-term deal is going to be the team that wins free agency. And I hope it's Howie Roseman because it's only going to get more expensive. If Jalen signs first, Joe's going to say, I want more than that. If Joe signed, then Herbert's going to say, I want the same as Joe, if not more. And then it's going to be a real. And Patrick Mahomes is going. Well, he in a league of his own. Can't nobody I want what Patrick got because Patrick got 2 of them things and been to 3 and got an MVP. So I don't know. But yeah, whatever team signs their quarterback to a long-term extension first will win free agency.
And I'm looking at you, Baltimore. Stop playing with that, man. I'm gonna keep saying it,
man.
Stop playing with it. Baltimore. Everyone in the league knows your offense is predicated around Lamar Jackson. You let this guy walk, the hell you are going to enter just will not be fair, and you're going to be very upset with yourselves. When all you got to do is just pay the man what you want. Figure out the cap space is not real. Figure it out. That's what I would tell him.
So let me ask you a question about the Lamar thing, right? In the battle of the guaranteed dollars, who wins short and long term between those two?
Short and long term, I'm saying the same guy's going to win. Lamar Jackson is going to win this because you look around these leagues, there are a couple of y'all's franchises that are in fucking hell right now. I'm looking at you, Las Vegas. I'm looking at you, New York Jets. Hell, I'm looking at you, San Francisco 49ers. I'm looking at a few of y'all, and I'm like, one of y'all is going to end up just saying, we want to win. Let's just pay him.
Atlanta, you have entered the chat.
They got Desmond Ridder though, who didn't play bad. He didn't play. He didn't
play about Desmond Ridder when I can get Lamar Jackson. B.
I'm saying you're going to give up. See, this is why I don't think the Atlanta thing is going to work out because I think Atlanta can still continue to build around Desmond Ridder, who wasn't playing. You haven't really seen him you don't really know what you're about to trade away because you haven't really seen enough. I don't think they've seen enough tape on him to say let's just trade him away. I think there's a world where they really maybe use this next year to really evaluate Desmond Ridder and then try to make a decision, right? Maybe you trade him next year where you might be bad enough to get a Caleb Williams, but I personally don't see the Falcons being realistic for Lamar. I really think it comes down to maybe a San Francisco, it comes down to a Vegas, it comes down to a New York Jets, and I mean, maybe because the Falcons are in the NFC, maybe I see that. But I could see Kyle Shanahan saying, yo, I'm tired of getting embarrassed every time I'm in the playoffs. Let me just go get a quarterback that can carry it all.
Well, here's the thing, Kyle. You're going to continue to get embarrassed in the playoffs because you're not a good coach in the playoffs.
Well, you don't have to, my brother. You don't have to convince me. I know. Oh man, I don't know how. I don't know how my team has lost to that guy a few times, but.
So you just talked about Vegas. You just talked about Aaron Rodgers. So Rodgers and Carr right now, NFL world is waiting for them, right? Everything's on hold until those two things are decided. What do you think happens with those guys?
I think Derek Carr ends up realistically in either Indianapolis, believe it or not,
Okay.
or I think there's a chance he could end up with the New Orleans Saints. I think when you look at the Saints and how their roster is constructed, they're looking they look at their roster and say, outside of quarterback, we're very competitive.
Yep.
And if we get a decent enough quarterback with the weapons we have, on our team with Chris Olave, maybe a Michael Thomas. Obviously, we don't know the full story of what's going to happen with Kamara, but when we're healthy, this is a pretty good team. And Tom's not here in Tampa no more, so this division is wide open. And I think the Saints are looking at the rest of the division and calling them sweet. I don't think there's no one in the NFC South without Tom Brady and the Bucks being there that really scares anyone. So I think I could definitely see the Saints or the Colts getting Derek Carr. I'm going to be honest with you. I wish Kyle was here from a research perspective, but not only a research, but from a Packers fans perspective of what I'm getting ready to say. I don't think Aaron Rodgers plays football for the Green Bay Packers next year.
Really?
No.
We're here?
I think we are here. I think if you've been reading in between the lines of some of Brian Gutenhouse's, our GM's comments recently, he's been talking a lot about how there will be some contract restructuring by certain players. I know he's mentioned David Bakhtiari. We all heard about Aaron Jones, his contract restructure.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of emphasis on wanting to keep the team nucleus together because they know that they're good. And I think while I know a lot of the players want Aaron back, I think personally Aaron's going to look in the mirror, look at this team and say, what more can I do here that has not been done? And how many more years do I have to be able to see if it could work here? And that's what I think is going to ultimately lead him to leaving. Wouldn't surprise me if he also either ends up in Indianapolis, but I could also see him maybe ending up. And that's the thing. I think that's where I struggle with, because that's a large contract to take on, right? Very large contract to take on. So I could also see him maybe restructuring his contract to come back, but I think we've seen the last of Aaron Rodgers personally in Green Bay. I hope I'm wrong. I just don't see a world where he looks at this team or looks at things and says, let me try this again after so many times trying and coming back and not being successful.
I'm with you. I think Rodgers is gone. I want to go back to Derek Carr to New Orleans because, yes, that's where I think he's going to be. And I think that catapults New Orleans to a top team in the NFC. Like, the NFC South is weak. I know Derek Carr's issue is that he doesn't push the ball down the field. And guess what? In New Orleans, you don't have to worry about that because you got Slant Boy. So you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. And I'm kidding.
Do him like that.
He's not. Michael Thomas is not Slant Boy. Michael Thomas's route tree, all levels are elite. I don't know why I got the Slant Boy one. But I think if Kamara's not in jail and if he's playing, like, that New Orleans team can be real scary next year in regards to, like, you have the Eagles, you have the Cowboys, the Niners, the Rams, and the Saints. Like, that, those would be the teams fighting for it all. So I like that idea a lot.
What do you say to the people out here who say Michael Thomas isn't a slant boy? His quarterback couldn't push the ball downfield, and the route tree that he could only run, the route tree that he was predicated to mostly run into the play calling because of the inability of the quarterback to push it down the field, ended up being a lot of underneath catches. What do you say to those people? Do you say they're right? Do you just make excuses? What do you say?
I say we're not gonna find out because Derek Carr doesn't push the ball down the field either. So it's gonna be the same thing.
Yeah. Well, they were winning when they had the dink and dunk. So
yeah,
come back.
Like, I think
Plus, I don't think they need Michael Thomas to stretch the field. If you watch Chris Olave, he can easily stretch the field. He's a great young wide receiver. I think he's going to be a great wide receiver in this league for a few years.
And that defense is nice. Like, I think the Saints could be a problem. Real quick, according to The Athletic, Russell Wilson asked for the Seahawks to fire both Pete Carroll and their GM before he was traded to Denver. LOL.
Hey, sometimes don't believe the victim. They was wrong. And this is one of them. I didn't believe I knew for a while the Seahawks had to choose between Russell Wilson and or the management. 9 times out of 10, I usually side with the player.
Yes.
I watch enough Seahawks games to know I'm siding with the organization on this one. Siding with the organization. Same thing's always been happening with Russ. He's an MVP for like the first 5 to 6 weeks of the season, and then all of a sudden something happens, and the next thing you know, that team's just slowly falling apart, and all people do is make excuses for the team instead of acknowledging for what it is. Dude he aight, and that's okay. That's all he is. He's aight.
That's okay.
He's aight, and I think when you put him in a position to really completely make all the decisions, you have a situation like you have in Denver, where it's just messy, it's bad. Pete, you right. You was right, and we got a lot of people owe you an apology, Pete Carroll.
Do you have a subscription to The Attic?
I do not.
If anyone does, go read that story. It is absolutely fascinating, the things Russell Wilson did his first year in Denver and the things that they allowed him to do. So apparently, like the stories are true. He had his own office on the second floor of the facility. The players were saying you only go to the second floor of the facility if you're getting released. So it was kind of a weird vibe. His office was surrounded by, like, the wall was surrounded with plays he had to come up with and inspirational quotes, and he would host an offensive film session. So like the offensive players would come to his office and they'd watch film, and like that was kind of cool. But they, like, sometimes it would just turn into him watching old Seahawks tape. And one of the players who was interviewed was like, yeah, it was kind of like walking down, like he was walking down memory lane. Hilarious. Second thing he was out here doing. Jerry Jeudy said that so the Broncos had a really hard time this year getting plays off and avoiding delay of games. And Jerry Jeudy was like, yeah, he'd be in the huddle, like trying to give us inspirational speeches before calling the play. And like that was kind of the issue. Like he'd be like, hey man, you're going to do this. You're going to get that block. Go get that block. Like he'd be saying that instead of the play call. And then he would mess up the play call, right? Like he wouldn't remember, or he couldn't communicate clearly the play call. And that's what led to a lot of their delay of games. It gets better. So some of the offensive linemen were saying that he was using cadences that they didn't use in practice. So they had no idea what he was saying, and that caused a lot of their false starts, to the point where some of the linemen had to tell him, yo, stop saying that. We have not practiced that. We don't know what that means. Wild. Wild.
I'm going to present you with something that I said in the other group chat that someone was in this group chat trying to tell me that Russell Wilson is borderline, like he's borderline an elite quarterback. And I said, was he elite, or was the team that he was on elite enough for him to cover up some of his blemishes because other teams just couldn't score and all you had to do was score enough points? They said, well, I don't know. So then my follow-up question to him was, years down the road, when we look at terrible offseason trades, where are we going to rank this Russell Wilson signing? And where do we put it in comparison to these other two deals that I'm about to mention?
Okay.
Albert Haynesworth to Washington, Kenny Golladay to the Giants.
Oof, that's tough. It'd have to be this one because they paid him a lot of money. Russ got
things, right?
Like Russ got a lot, he has to be there for like the next 3 years. It's not like you can get rid of him. That dead cap is something massive. Oof.
So I'm gonna say this for John Elway's sake. I really hope I really hope they at least one of these years just make it to the playoffs.
Because that's the bar. That's all you got to do, right? Because this is Patrick Mahomes' league. Like, there's no shame in making it to the playoffs and losing to Patrick Mahomes. Like, I don't think anyone would fault Denver for that. But
another season like last year, and somebody gotta go. Makes you wonder if really, how do I say this? How much of that bullshit was on Nathaniel Hackett last year?
We'll see. Sean Payton said, oh, no, we're not doing that this year. We'll see. So, I think Sean Payton is a fraud. We about to find out.
Well, I guess also,
let me take that back. I don't think he's a fraud. I don't think he's all that everyone hypes him up to be. We'll find out. Like he is Kyle Shanahan to me with a Super Bowl ring.
Russ, if you get benched in Sean Payton's offense, I just want you to know.
Like you're supposed to be Drew Brees 2.0. Well, you got Drew Brees coach.
Saints fans saying don't compare Drew Brees to Sean to Russell.
I'm just saying, like Russ is more mobile than Drew. Even at this age, he's more mobile than Drew. So you, in theory, you can do more with Russ than you could with Drew.
He gets paid to throw the basketball, not be more mobile. I mean, not basketball, throw the football, not be more mobile.
Woof. D. This week, we start a new segment. Speak to the cinema. You had a lot of stuff you wanted to cover this week, so I'm gonna pass the mic. Talk to us about the Speak on the Cinema. Speak to the cinema.
People, I know we've been starting this new Speak to the Cinema segment where Danny and I come in and speak on some things that we've been watching as of late. We've been off for a couple of weeks, so there's a couple of shows I want to big up that I think more people should be watching out here. Okay. I'm gonna start with Drive to Survive. I don't know how many people out here are big into Formula One. I think obviously Drive to Survive on Netflix really highlights, it's a documentary style show that kind of highlights the inner workings of Formula One. I love it. They just dropped season 5 last week in honor of testing, which was last week, which is our testing week, out in Bahrain, I believe. First Grand Prix is this weekend. My favorite team, Mercedes, looks like they have a pretty a better car than last year. We'll see how it does in comparison to some of the other ones, but I think if you are interested in seeing what Formula One's about, how maybe this, how this sport can really come to life, I would definitely suggest that one. I think it gives you a little bit of there's a little drama in it, but I think more so it kind of explains to you the inner workings of the sport and what makes this sport such a global phenomenon. Because on any given weekend, you're talking like 200 to 400,000 people who show up to these races, and these are races all over the country, including here in America. There's going to be 3 this year actually here in America. So obviously the Circuit of America's race in Austin, which is really, really big. That's the one that's been going around for a couple of years now. Last year was the first year they did the Miami Grand Prix, which would be a big one. And then this year will be the first year they do the Vegas Grand Prix, which will be around the Vegas Strip. So that'll be a really, really cool one. So looking forward to it. So definitely check that out if you guys haven't. They just dropped season 5. So 10 episodes a season. I think I really, really recommend it. Other things that I was watching, Danny, we talked about this earlier. NBA All-Star Weekend. NBA, y'all have to figure out a new brand of dope to sell to your people out here. Listen, NBA All-Star Weekend this year showed me one thing. One, as respectful as we want to be to these smaller markets and their ability to host the All-Star Weekend so the world and country can see their city. Let me get to the camera. Bring it close to the camera.
Get close.
We don't care.
Nope.
We don't care. There wasn't a soul out here. Fam, first off, the NBA there's a lot of culture in the NBA. There's a lot of culture in the NBA. When I say culture, a lot of hip-hop Black culture that's in the NBA. The culture don't give a fuck about Salt Lake City. They didn't want to show up to Salt Lake City. So much so that you could tell that the people who flew into All-Star Weekend flew in to come to that game. And then afterwards, they got the fuck out of there, bro. They was on their way to LA, or they was on their way to their vacation with their family. They did not want to be there. You could see it in the play, on the court, and in the activities. They had a white man come in and win the damn dunk contest. Shout out Matt McClung. I mean, you did a great job, but come on, man.
Dog.
Come on. Adam Silver, I'm looking at you and I'm saying, I like what y'all are continuing to do to revolutionize the NBA All-Star Game, going from east to west to letting the players choose. My next question is, what's the next evolution? Because you cannot put that back out there that you just did. You can't do that. You saw the ratings were down. You saw the viewing was down. Adam Silver, NBA, y'all got to figure this one out. Next one I wanted to talk about, and this is a little bit more of a trip down memory lane. So I'm going to play something.
Okay.
I'm going to play something.
In a verbal battle, nobody can defeat me. And I'm completely unaffected when you taunt me. It's not my fault that all these women want me. It's not my fault that I got the better body. swear that he's my one-man posse.
This is John Cena, Dr. Thugonomics.
You're just another dude who came up short from Red Hook.
Hold
This
on.
battle was over way before it even started. You against me, you're totally retarded.
Dr.
Nah,
of
man.
Thugonomics, John Cena, was a different breed of funny as hell, people. I've been rewatching Raw and SmackDown house shows from in the late 2002, early 2003. That's when John Cena was really starting to get his run. Yo, Vince McMahon, I want to let you know you are so lucky social media was not around at that time. Because
rap.
oh, yo, John Cena, Dr. Thugonomics, yo, in this rap battle versus Rikishi at the time, this dude had on a plush bucket hat on with a t-shirt.
Yep. Dog. I forgot about Dr. Thug with the chain, and he will punt. Yo,
The chain, and then
he
he used to come
John
with the ring.
Cena.
Word motherfucking life.
Like heel John Cena was peak John Cena. The throwbacks, the freestyles, the Dr. Thug. Yo, remember when Kurt Angle tried to mock him, and it best segment on TV.
Oh man, look, John Cena. I just want when I think about the evolution of John Cena as a WWE superstar throughout the years, I always wish we got a little bit longer run of Dr. of Thugonomics, but I get it. You couldn't let that fly for forever. He probably didn't want to keep doing that for forever. But what a hilarious ass time. I just definitely encourage, if you're a true WWE fan, just go into YouTube and look up Dr. Thugonomics John Cena. You will probably laugh for a little bit. And going off of that, another show that I've been watching on Peacock, and shout out to my baby for letting me use her Peacock login. Another show I've been watching on Peacock is the Young Rock Show. I'm going to be honest. I was so absolutely certain this was going to be some of the corniest shit I have ever seen in my life. I have been completely blown away by how much I genuinely like this show.
What is it?
I think Young Rock.
Oh, Young Rock. Okay.
Yeah. You know, I thought it was going to be like a true autobiography, but I actually love the way they do the storyline. I don't know. Have you seen it? I got to ask that.
No, I don't have Peacock, but I know you just watch it because of Becky Lynch.
Becky Lynch what?
Becky Lynch is on Young Rock.
She is?
Yeah, she's coming. Oh, what season are you on?
I just finished season 1.
Oh, she's season 2.
Well, I just started season 2, so good thing I see that. And shout out Becky Lynch. That is some elite milk.
All right.
Anyway, but I like the storyline because what I thought was an autobiography is really The Rock using some lessons that he's learned over the course of his life and just kind of speaking to it as he's running for president, which I thought was pretty funny because I think what happened was he really kind of leaned into that Dwayne Johnson running for president and kind of used that as a basis for the show. I think it was pretty smart. I like how they go between like a young Rock when he's a little kid to like when he was like a high schooler starting to figure out, you know, that he was really, really good at football, had potential there, and obviously him at Miami. And then I like all the characters all the historical characters they bring in. Like I didn't know that he was coached by Coach O at the University of Miami. Like that character, yeah, I think that character is pretty funny. And then obviously, you know, his dad being, Rocky Johnson, Soul Man, Rocky Johnson, and seeing those characters. So they have obviously Andre the Giant, the Wild Samoans, Randy Macho Man Savage, and finding on Tony Atlas I can see is going to be a big part as season 2. So just speaking of that, and then kind of talking to the kind of the underlyings of the wrestling business. You know, I think for people who are interested in, you know, obviously in pro wrestling, you know that these are definitely personas put on by these guys, but just seeing how dedicated these guys are to these personas and keeping themselves up, and really the emphasis, I think you someone who's really spoken on this, how they get to these different shows and how some of these guys don't really make the money that they should. Everyone just thinks that these guys are just these swole rich guys. It's not the case. Like, you got to build to that point. So when you guys see like the Roman Reigns and the John Cena's of today, they got to really thank a lot of like the Rocks and the Stone Colds from yesteryears, because it really helped them set it up. So I want to give a lot of big ups to the Rock, NBC, and shout out Peacock. I think Peacock, obviously, I think Peacock is one of the better streaming services. They got some gems on there, and I like their user interface as it pertains to Raw and SmackDown. The original WWE app was some horse shit. I don't know if y'all used it to watch WWE like shows back in the day, but it was so clunky. This one feels a lot better, a lot easier. So shout out to them. And that's all for Speak to the Cinema, Danny. I mean, that's what I had. I know I dominated it this week. I think. Yo, I will say I did finish Harley Quinn. Was the last episode the Valentine's Day episode?
Yeah, so I stopped watching it. I need to catch up. Damn, Street's calling.
No, that was my phone just played a random song, a Lil Sky song. I did not ask them to do that.
Throw it out the window. Feds is listening. I need to catch up on Harley Quinn. I started season 2, kind of fell off, so I need to get back on it.
Got to. All right, Danny. We got a question this week.
We got a question this week. So we got a question from Anna E. Mouse. Excuse me. So anonymous E. Mouse.
Let's just read the question.
So Charles Barkley was on TV this week saying that the NBA has a load management problem, and how guys should be out there playing, especially when they're making the money that they're making. While I do think there's a correlation between this new ring culture and load management, I think the bigger issue here is players' salaries being public knowledge as it's being weaponized against them. Do you guys think professional sports should find a way to eliminate the publicity of salaries? Would you like to go first?
Oh, man, that's a good question. This is a good question. Man, I'm on the fence. I get what they're saying, though. I think so. Charles Barkley's point, he was saying guys are getting paid 40, 50, whatever millions a year, and they're sitting out games. And that's disrespectful to the game, and that's disrespectful to the fans. And I completely understand where he's coming from, because it makes a lot of sense. But do you see where he started that sentence at? Guys are making XXX dollars a year. So I'll say this: I do think I get it that player salary is like a bit big from is a big talking point from a media standpoint, right? I think it's also good for players to know what other players are making so that they can help reset the market, right? Or get the money they feel like they deserve. So you know what? I'm going to say yes. I don't think player salary information should be complete public knowledge. I think it should be internal player knowledge, right? Because I think there's a big difference here. While I don't think us as fans, the media should know what these guys are making, because it's really none of our business. I do think other players should be able and should be knowledgeable about what other players make, whether that's via the player association, whether that's via just keeping in contact with each other, player to player, which I'm pretty sure that's something that a lot of these players do and they communicate. But I do think, because when we think about it, what the fuck do me and you and the rest of America need to know about these players' salaries? I don't need to know. I really don't care. But if I'm Lamar Jackson, I would want to know what Patrick Mahomes is making, because I want to know what my comp is making, so that way I can accurately be like, okay, if they're trying to give me a 5-year deal for $165 million with only $75 million guaranteed, but Patrick Mahomes got 5 for $250, or 5 for $500 million with $250 guaranteed, or 10 for $250 with $250 guaranteed, I would want to know that, because it's like, okay, that's Patrick Mahomes, MVP, 2-time Super Bowl champion. I'm Lamar Jackson, unanimous MVP, been won a couple playoff games, had some success. So maybe I fall in this range. I think that helps players way more than it helps us. I don't think we need it anyway, because I guess I get where this question is coming from, because I'd much rather. I don't want to hear little Jimmy from Idaho telling me, "No, you make 45 million guaranteed. You should be out there playing." It's like, little Jimmy, yo, shut the hell up and go back to your fucking office desk job, you junkie. I don't give a damn what you think. But
junkie.
Again, and I think and I feel bad for players because it's being weaponized. Like, why should Paul George making whatever he make a year be weaponized against him if the team feels it's best for him for the long run of not only him, his body, and the team as it pertains to the postseason to sit out a game? Now, do I think there's a load management problem? I do, because I don't think all of you need to be load managing. I think some of you need to be playing. But I understand what load management is. If you've been an athlete, you understand what load management is. From depending on what that means per se, but you understand what that means. It means that they've recognized that because if you're healthy, they're going to put you out there. I just want everyone to know that. If you're completely healthy, they're going to put you out there to play football, basketball. If you're healthy, they're going to put you out there to play. If you have some nicked up injuries and they're looking at the grand scope of the season, they start holding. It becomes more prevalent then. If you've had a recent surgery and they want to make sure that you are available for the really, really long run, while also wanting to make sure that you get the reps needed to make sure you start getting the rhythm, I completely understand that. There's two sides to every coin. I don't think, though, that player salary knowledge or players' salary should be public knowledge. It don't mean nothing to me. It don't mean nothing to ESPN. These guys are getting paid their salaries are going to be unaffected. So why do we really need to know? Keep it to, we've signed X player to new deal for this amount of years. That's all. I just always feel like that's all we needed to know.
We know too much, though, right? Because we know salary cap, we know the percentages a person can play, right? We know the percentage and the parameters of players have to reach to get a max and a super max. So if the salary cap is $200 million and a super max player can take up 25% of the salary cap, then we know how much money that person is paying. It's only if you let them weaponize it, dog. If someone looked at me and was like, "Oh, you make $45 million, you should play." I'm like, "Hey, dog, that $45 million gonna cash whether I play or not." Like, if I don't have a problem with the salaries being known. I will say, though, I think the load management thing, we have this discussion. I think people need to understand that we have load management problems because these athletes are playing so much basketball as youth. Like AAU basketball, these players have played an entire NBA career by the time they've reached the NBA. So they're 23-year-olds who are having injuries that someone who's been in the league for 10 or 15 years are getting. So I think the conversation needs to shift to, like, why do we need to have load management issues compared to the money that players are getting paid? I don't have a problem with Paul George getting $45 million a year. If that's what the Clippers think he's worth, and who am I to say you don't deserve that money? Like, he don't come to your job and say, "Hey, so-and-so doesn't deserve that $50,000 a year." Like, that's some hater stuff. I think if we're going to talk about the issue and why players aren't on the court, we need to talk about the culture of AAU basketball, the amount of games that these men are playing from 8 to 18 and then college, right? I think that's a discussion worth having more than the money.
And to kind of build off on your point, though, not only are these players, especially as it relates to basketball, are playing more games than ever as they head to college and then eventually the NBA, but the level of explosiveness and the talent of these athletes are at the highest level they've ever been, which if you get these explosive athletes, you are susceptible to more injury because you're putting so much explosive pressure on your body. And a lot of you out here can't dribble a fucking ball to save your life. You can't catch a ball to save your life. You have no athletic ability whatsoever. You wouldn't know an athlete if he punched you dead in the face. You are unathletic swine. So you wouldn't understand what it's like to even be half of an elite athlete because you've never been a decent athlete. And it's always the people who couldn't play it's always the people who got picked last for fucking dodgeball that got something to say about an athlete's salary. Yes, Paul George makes X amount of millions a year. You know why? Have you seen Paul George play basketball? Very, very good at it. And on an off night, yeah, he may not be, he may have some struggles here and there, but when he's hitting, he's hitting.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Yeah, like I'm with you. ESPN wrote an article 2-3 years ago about this exact issue in load management, the number of games that people are playing. And one thing that one of the athletic trainers saying is these kids have all this explosiveness, but don't know how to protect their body. And they don't have basic knowledge. They don't know how to land. They don't know how to jump. They can't squat, can't do a lunge. So they do all this the wrong way for 10 years and they get to the league and you try to course correct that. And that's when you get a lot of these injuries happen and stuff like that. But yeah, the conversation needs to be focused on why are these players suffering these injuries so early in their career compared to they're making this much money they need to play. Like back in the day, players would play the high school season, and you'd have the summer off and you'd come back in the winter and play again. Now it's, okay, my son's playing a high school season and then he's jumping into AAU basketball. He's playing at least 3 games every weekend minimum if they win more. And then they're all jumping into a Honda Accord and driving home, right? They don't have access to the nutritionist. They don't have access to the training staff that NBA players have. So what are you paying 3 games a week between March and July? Like you're squeezing half an NBA season in 4 months, and then you get a little bit of a break, and now we're back to, school basketball. So I think the conversation needs to go there.
I think this conversation goes just beyond just basketball, right? I think in the football scene, a lot of these players are in the camp sort of scene throughout the spring before they get into spring ball, before they get into training camp, before they get into the season. I think if you're a track athlete, you're running indoor track. No, I'll take a step back. You're training throughout the fall to run indoor track in the winter, to then transition to outdoor track in the summer, to then transition to, if you start going, running at some of these AAU meets, now you're running throughout the entire summer because there's summer AAU meets. And then if you're really the elite of the elite, usually some of the world junior meets are in late August or around that time. So now you're talking about maybe a full calendar year that people are running, which is a lot of pressure on the body. When I got to college, like I was so glad that I was able to access the nutritionist and the weight room and find different ways to kind of help take care of my body. I imagine something similar with soccer. I imagine something similar with tennis. Like today's athletes are more explosive and better overall athletes than yesterday's athletes. That's no knock. That's fucking facts. You don't believe me? Take a look at why all these records across all these sports continue to continuously be broken. The numbers speak for itself. We're getting better athletes. So we have to find ways to really start helping keep these players knowledgeable, how to protect themselves, their body. But I think some of you organizations out here who are really just using these athletes to make money off of, especially in their younger days as running the circus through AAU, you're draining the true lifespan of what this athlete could be down the road. So but I still don't think we need public knowledge of their salaries, because, and maybe it's me just not really caring. I just don't care. Like, yo, you could be player 1 or player 15 on the roster. Can you play, dog? Can you go out there and play? I don't give a fuck what you make. You want to know why? Because I've seen too many of these professional sports teams where player number 1 in terms of salary ain't really doing shit. Player number 15 versus salary, he's coming there giving you buckets. He's giving you energy. It's life of the, like, I don't really care what you're making. Can you help your team win? Or are you the reason why they lose? I don't care how much you get paid. You're in pay regardless. As you said, that check going cash regardless. So I don't care what the number is. Can you play? And the last thing I'm gonna say that you can wrap this up for the day. If you are really a proponent of players and player empowerment and wanting to see players get their money, then you should A, not really give a fuck about what these players are making, and just B, always cheer for every player to get the most money they can get while they play their sport. Don't matter if it's 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 250 million. As long as that player gets the maximum amount of money that they can get I'm all for it. That's why I'm a big proponent of the NIL in college and seeing a lot of these kids getting paid. I wish I was in college during that time. I'm not. But I'm not hating on what these young dudes are making, because some of these, as a former college athlete, I know a lot of these college athletes won't make it to the next level, which is hard. It's a hard thing to accept. Let them make money off their likeness, their name, their likeliness while they can. And for you athletes that are able to go to the next level, make the money that you can. Caitlin Clark might make more money in the NIL if she came back than if she went to the WNBA next year. I'm looking at that and say, yo, you better come back and make that money, girl. So some of y'all, listen, as a part-time professional hater, it's okay to hate, but hating on professional players' salary and trying to weaponize it against them as to why load management is bad, please crawl away from the rock that you're under and maybe go work out, you unathletic bum. And usually those are the people who are very upset at what they're making every 2 weeks or every week. Hey, take that up with your damn self. No one told you to get that degree. Maybe use your degree to get you a little bit of money, or start a business, or go sell a fucking brick. That's what I'm saying. No, that's what I'm gonna start telling some of you brokies out here. Go sell a brick, dog, because that's your problem. If you sold a brick, you might be happy about where you are in life. But go sell a brick.
That's going to be the social clip. D, where can the people find you?
People, again, I'm going to reiterate this. If you so happen to be with us here at 85 minutes into this beautiful audio adventure, you can find me on Twitter, on Twitch, on Instagram at LosDMix. That's at LOSDEEMIX. Remember, people, there's one spot open in our 10-team Dynasty PPR League. You're going to inherit a good team. And the last thing I'm going to say, and I'm going to make sure I say this every week, check your pay stubs, check your W-4. Uncle Sam is going to get his. So make sure you're withholding what you need to withhold. Because tax season,
it ain't fun for everyone. Find me on the Bird app, Danny Ocean 41. Remember, you can follow the pod on Instagram and Twitter, speakonit_pod. Send us your questions, speakonitpod@gmail.com. They do not have to be sports related. Again, speakonitpod14.
I'm glad we got this question. This was a good question.
It was a good one. speakonitpod14@gmail.com. You will catch us next week. D, what are we riding out to tonight?
Let's go back to this Can't Nobody. This is Can't Nobody, people. The song we was playing earlier, Lil Wayne, produced by Swiss Beats, featuring DMX. I'm telling y'all, listen, when goats talk, we got to start listening, right, Danny? We got to start listening. We got to start listening when the goats talk. Listening. Danny, it's always an honor to be here. People, thank you for being here with us. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you were here with Danny and I. Shout out Gladys. Great show this week, too, earlier. Gladys, I see you. Shout out Gladys. Shout out Gator J. Shout out everyone. Shout out Going for Two. Shout out Jeff. Love y'all.